Hey, what up everyone, this is MandoAllDay, back with another video. In today's video, I'll be doing a build guide for Gambit. I'll be going over the artifacts, medallion insignia, and item slots 1 through 5, as well as go over talents and traits and powers, the hero synergies, and at the very end, show you my rotation and give you some tips and pointers as far as how I was able to pass Cosmic Trial without using any infinity points with Gambit. So again, this is my build guide for Gambit, so let's get right into it. First thing we're going to look at are the artifacts. The first artifact is Pyro's Flamethrower. I'm using this for the damage rating versus enemies with burning status. Well, that's kind of irrelevant, but plus 4 energy and attack speed. Overall, this is a pretty good artifact because it grants you the attack speed and the plus 4 energy. But also, too, there's a 5% chance that to create a barrier of flames around you for 5 seconds, causing 5800 energy damage to enemies when they attack you. So it's decent, but I'm mainly using this for the plus 4 energy and attack speed. Next is Mayhem Demon Blood. I'm using this for the health increase and damage rating to range powers. And also, too, when you gain 10 stacks, you gain plus 2 fighting and 2 speed. Having that fighting is really good because his attributes are fighting and energy. Hence why I'm using Pyro for the plus 4 energy, and obviously for the plus 2 fighting in this, and also for this grants you a good amount of health, so it's really good too. Next is Crossbow Medallions, which I should change. I originally had something else, but I completely forgot to change it. But I would use a medallion that grants you probably, if I were you, I would use either Red Skull or preferably Ultron, because Ultron grants you like plus 1 energy and it grants you like extra damage to your energy powers. So again, it's my fault, but I'm just showing you guys this is the medallion I used for my Cosmic Trial video. This medallion grants me plus 1 fighting, physical damage rating increase, which is pretty good. Energy damage rating is just good. Deflect rating, attack speed increase, and plus 1 strength. Again, it's not a bad one because if you go with a hybrid build where if you use both physical damage and energy damage based powers, and this is a really good medallion, but for me, I'm mainly using this for energy and range, so having this medallion isn't the best. It's not the worst, but again, I really just let you guys know. So this is what I used. Next is Kevlar Plated Helmet. I'm using this when you critically hit, gain plus 5 fighting, which is good because that increases the base damage, as well as critical hit rating to range attacks and deflect rating increase. And then Book of Demonica's plus 3 to hold attributes, and also 3 increased 30 damage rating for 3 seconds, stacks up with 25 times when you use a basic power, which I do have a basic power, so I'm always going to get the extra damage rating. And for relic, I rarely use any relics for Cosmic Trial videos, but in this case I did had some, and I used relic of Zadar. This grants me damage rating to range powers and extra health, which is 7 of them, which is not a whole lot. And then for the Forge, I have 800 defense, and I have a blessing to where I increase my, it's a fire barrage, or barrage, and this increases my energy damage rating and damage rating to range powers. Legendary, I'm using Cosmic Control Rod. I'm using this for the energy damage rating increase, regeneration health on enemy defeat, critical hit rating to energy attacks, gain 25 kinetic energy when you defeat an enemy, and then plus 2 energy. For insignia, I'm using Industrial State Insignia. I'm using this for the critical damage rating, the attack speed to energy powers, critical hit rating to energy attacks. When hit with an energy power, gain 157 damage rating for 10 seconds, and health. And then for slots 1 through 5, the first 3, or slots 1, 2, and 3 are his Cosmic. These are Gambit's Cosmic. Slots 4 and 5 are his Uniques. So if I were you, I would use his Uniques, as his Uniques offer a pretty good amount of extra boost of health and damage. But again, just showing you guys that I use the first 3 are Cosmic, and then the last 2 are Uniques. For the costume, Gambit Modern Costume, which is a default costume of my, this is a default costume. Catalyst, I have it to where 35% movement speed increase for 5 seconds when you use a medkit, gain 437 health when you hit an enemy, which is good, damage rating to range powers, and plus 3 fighting, so overall pretty good so far. Cosmic, gain the damage shield equal to 50% of your maximum health when you use a medkit. Crafted affixes, critical damage rating as always. Mutation bonus, after being crowd controlled, gain 2000 maximum health for 5 seconds. And visuals is colorful swirling feathers. For insignia, I'm using Insignia Phoenix. I'm using this for the 10% chance when you are defeated to instead revive with full health and spirit. The Royal Phoenix, when you hit with a range power, you and your allies gain energy damage rating increase, mental damage, which is irrelevant, and +1 energy, which is pretty good. But this also grants me Brutal Strike rating and extra health, which overall is really good. X-Men Golden Flourish, I'll just activate it, there you go. And for the pet, I have it to where I take 2% less damage from enemy area powers, plus 40 kinetic energy or spirit, plus 2% base energy damage. When you use a signature power, gain 1000 maximum health for 10 seconds, and then plus 3 energy. And for team up is Jubilee. Alright, the powers I use, top to bottom, left to right. Wild card, trick card, street sweep, royal flush, batter up, 52 pickup. Oh, and also good times roll. And infinity points, none were used. I will show you guys. And again, the key thing to look at this is this right here, because if there's any points that I use, it would show, but I'm using no points at all. Hero Synergy, I'm using Cable for the critical hit rating multiplier increase, Dr. Doom for the signature power damage increase, yeah. Hawkeye for the move speed and a critical damage rating increase, Iron Man for the range power and energy damage increase, Rogue for the health on hit and +1 spirit on hit, Squirrel Girl for the damage to bosses increase, Vision for the range and damage to machine increase, Wolverine for the brutal strike and brutal damage rating, and War Machine for the +10 kinetic and +1 fighting. Now for the talents and traits, the first role I'm using is, sorry, I'm putting my headphones on, Raging Kajun. So trigger a kinetic surge effect when you hit with any power. A kinetic surge energy does 1800 to 2800 damage. Kinetic energy cost is 14.1, and kinetic cooldown is 0.3 seconds. So what does this do? Basically, is you notice how it's purple here. This is kinetic energy. So when you have full kinetic energy, every time you use a power, it does an extra explosion. Okay, so I'll show you guys one of the powers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate Street Sweep, and you're going to notice it's going to be an explosion. And when I do that, it's also going to be reducing my kinetic energy. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. See the explosions? These are here. And notice how every time it explodes, it uses up some of my kinetic energy. I'll do it again. See that? Now watch. I'm going to reactivate the power when I have no kinetic energy, and it's not going to do the same thing. Watch. See, now it doesn't do any kinetic any explosion, but once it gets full kinetic energy, there you go. So basically, that's what that's what this talent does. It gets that kinetic explosion, which it can help out a lot of the powers, depending on the power. For instance, well, I don't want to go too ahead of myself, but it does help out certain powers, even a lot. So hence why I'm using this. Second row is King of Hearts. It's a passive. I gain maximum health increase 699 and health on hit 69 and health regeneration 70 per second. So this is the passive. So I mainly use this to increase my health and health on hit, because he is a bit weak. So having the extra health and health on hit does help out. Third row is Jax or better. Dead Man's Hands and Wild Card throw a special explosion card every 5th card. So when I use Dead Man's Hands or Wild Card, and which is my basic right here, it throws a, what is it, on the 5th card, and the 5th card, it does a extra damage. So as you can see right here, energy damage is about 17 to 26,000 in an area every 5th attack. So what this talent does is it grants me extra damage to the 5th card if I use Dead Man's Hand or Wild Card. So again, it's really good because it does a lot of damage, especially with that 5th attack, or 5th card, excuse me. Next is 3 of a Kind. I'm using this because Trick Card grants, again, 2 additional charges. So now I have 3, which is this right here, plus the damage is increased by 25%. And this is a really, really good talent, because this power right here alone, it does pretty good amount of damage as is, But the good thing about this is that this power does not gains, but this power does critical hit chance by 100. So meaning every time you activate this power, it's always going to critical hit. So this talent, it works very well with trick card because it increases the damage, and you gain 3 charges, and they're always going to critical hit. And not only that, when you have Raging Kajin or Kinetic Energy, when you have Kinetic Energy and you activate trick card, it does about 11,000 to 16,000 area damage when you activate trick card when you have Kinetic Energy, which is really good. So overall, this is really good talent. And for the 5th throw is Ace of Hearts. 52 pickup will also periodically throw a fully charged Ace of Spades at nearby enemies. So with this talent is, when you have this talent activated, when you activate signature, it periodically throws the Ace of Spades, which is this power right here, fully charged. And again, this is really good because when you activate this power fully charged, it does quite a bit of damage. But also too, if you read it clearly here, well, actually no, something else, sorry. But overall, with Ace of Hearts, when you activate signature, it throws Ace of Spades card fully charged, which does like 22,000 damage. So again, that's really good because when you activate signature, it throws a lot of cards, and the likelihood of you getting the buff or activating an Ace of Spades card at randomly it's pretty high. So having that extra little damage, it does benefit. Alright, this is my talents and traits. Now my rotation, it's pretty simple, but I'll explain some of the powers because it's a bit confusing, but trust me, it's really easy to understand. The first power, Wild Card, simple, is my main spender. It does about 11,000 damage, but also too, when you have Kinetic on the wall, it does 11,000 damage, but on the 5th card it does about 26,000 due to this talent right here. But also attack speed, not attack speed is increased, but when you spend Kinetic Energy, wild card damage is increased by 25% for 5 seconds. Again, when you use a power, which I'm going to show you in a bit, a power that consumes Kinetic Energy, the damage of wild card is increased by 25% for 5 seconds, which is really good because again, this is my main spender, so having the extra 25% damage to this power is really beneficial. And not only that, all my powers consume a lot of Kinetic Energy, so I'm always going to be having this buff. The next one is Royal Flush. I'm using this for mainly one reason, to be honest with you. It's not so much because it does damage, and it does pretty good damage, but this grants me a buff, which is 10% extra damage to my range powers for 8 seconds. And all you have to do is activate the power, Royal Flush, and you get a buff. I'm going to see if I can show you guys here in the boost. There we go, perfect. So notice it right here, 3 seconds, 2. Now I reset to 7. See it right here. 4, 3, 2. See, and then it resets. So I mainly use this power, honestly, just to get that buff of 10% extra damage to my range powers. And it gets really good because it just, this is an energy-based range build, so having that 10% extra damage to my range power is very beneficial, especially to a signature. Next is Street Sweep. Honestly, this is really simple. It's my damage over time power. All you have to do is activate it, and there you go, it does it by itself. Alright, the next one is House of Cards. Pretty good damage, or decent damage, but the good thing about this is that Street Sweep, the vulnerability, damage received, 10% extra damage, because the enemies get vulnerability for 8 seconds. Alright, House of Cards. So when you activate House of Cards, it does decent amount of damage, but also too, it slows down the enemy's movement by 40% for 4 seconds, but also this also has about 13 extra damage when you have Kinetic Energy, like right now. So I'll show you how it looks like. You see the Kinetic Energy explosion? So it's doing about 15,000, and then there you go, the power. 15,000. When you activate this power and you have Kinetic Energy, it does about 15,000 damage. So it's really, really good. The next one, again, it's easy. 3 charges. I've said it before. Critical hit chance, and also 2, when you have Kinetic Energy, it does an extra 15 or 16,000 damage. Really good power. There you go. My next power is Batter Up. Really, really good power. I like this a lot. It does quite a bit of damage, even though this is not energy damage, but it's physical damage and it's melee. Keep that in mind. But it does a lot of damage. But when you have kinetic energy, it has a stun duration of 3 seconds, which is really, really good. But keep this in mind, the cost of kinetic energy is 133, and this power cannot be activated if you do not have any kinetic energy. So for instance, right now I'm gonna consume all my kinetic energy, and you notice it's not gonna be able to, I won't be able to use it. So here you go. I'll show you what I mean. See, and I can't activate it. But once I have kinetic energy, like right now, I have, and it has stun durations as that kinetic energy, I can activate it. And last but not least is the signature. Again, it's pretty good. I like it. Just keep in mind that it's a single target base, even though it's range, it's single target base. So keep that in mind. So if the enemy moves, make sure you're following that enemy, because if you don't, you're gonna this signature is gonna be pretty useless, because you're gonna be hitting nothing. But yeah. So let's get into rotation. Really, really simple. So as I mentioned, this is my main spender wildcard. I'm always going to be using it. So the first thing I usually do is activate Royal Flush. Why? Because I want to get that 10% extra damage to my range power buff. So just activate that. Next, activate my damage over time, which is Street Sweep. Next is House of Cards and my main spender, and then start using my other powers. But that's just, again, my first rotation is simple. Royal Flush to get that range power damage buff, Street Sweep to get that, you know, damage over time and stun and vulnerability, and then House of Cards to get to slow the enemies down. So it looks something like this all together. Main spender. You can even move. Do it again. Do it again. And then move, and then just keep doing your attack. Yeah, that's the first rotation. The second rotation is including Trick Card. My advice is, personally, I would not activate this until you have 3 charges, because it always critical hits, which is good, but also 2, it does Trick Card, here we go. It does quite a bit of damage. Like I said, it does quite a bit of damage. But do keep in mind the 3 charges, and it does have a cooldown. But the good thing about this is that it's a range. So what I usually do is, before I activate Trick Card, is I make sure that I activate Royal Flush. That way I get the extra power damage to range powers. So when I activate my Trick Card, the damage is increased by 10% because this is a range. So not only do I do extra damage per this talent, which I believe is this one right here, 25%, but also get an additional 10 because of the buff this grants me. Okay, so this is really, really good as is. I usually activate this power when I have 3 charges, and before I activate it, make sure I activate Royal Flush, get that 10% buff. And if you want to know how you can tell, look at here are your buffs. Let's see if I can activate it right there. And then when you have 3 charges, activate them. Okay, now do keep in mind that this has kinetic, this also has a kinetic energy explosion. So when you have kinetic energy, like right now, it also does 18,000 damage in area if you have kinetic energy. So if you're already activated, make sure you have, ideally you want to have it activate this power when you have kinetic energy, so that way not only do you get damage from, well, not only do you do a lot of damage, but you also get the kinetic energy damage. Alright. So I guess you can say that's my second rotation. So first rotation is simple: Royal Flush, Street Sweep, House Cards, and then Main Spender. The second, I guess, is Royal Flush and then Trick Card. If you can, try to activate Trick Card when you have kinetic energy. If not, you're fine. And last but not least is Batter Up. Activate it whenever you can. I mean, it's one of those powers that does a lot of damage as is. So if whenever you have kinetic energy, activate it, because I said this power can only be activated when you have kinetic energy, like right now. If you don't, it's up to you. You have to kind of wait. And let me show you the overall how it looks in total. So here we go. Then we're going to Kinetic Energy, that's okay. And then here, and then just keep going at it again. 1, 2, 3. Move if we have to, whatever, do what you gotta do. 1, 2, 3, and then batter up. Boom. That's that. Now the last thing is including the signature. When do you activate it? Activate it whenever you can, but my advice would be is to activate this power as soon as right after you activate Royal Flush. Why? Because his signature is range based, so when you activate Royal Flush, you have the 10 extra power damage to range powers for 8 seconds. So my advice is, before you activate signature, activate Royal Flush and then signature. That way you gain that 10% extra damage due to this power right here. And yeah, that's my build guide for Gambit. Couple things I will give advice is that this legendary is probably not the best. It's not bad, but it's not the best because some of his powers are energy and physical. Like for instance, this is energy, physical, energy, physical, energy. So my advice personally, and this is something that I'm going to be doing after I upload this video, is I'm going to be using this this legendary right here, which is Norm Stones. What this does is it increases the damage to the physical damage rating powers, but as well as the energy damage rating powers, the critical hit rating, plus 75 to kinetic energy or spirit. And so again, this is really good legendary. And so for my particular build, personally, I would use Norm Stone as opposed to the Cosmic Rod. Cosmic Rod is not bad, but to be honest with you, I'd rather have the legendary I just showed you guys, because it increases the damage to my physical powers, which are these right here, which in turn is going to help out overall. So again, I'd rather just let you guys know, that way you guys are completely, if you want to build this same exact build, I would use that legendary that I showed you guys as opposed to this. And yeah, that concludes my build guide for Gambit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. His animations are awesome and great. I love the coloring and the visuals. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Any requests for certain characters, leave it in the comment section below. I really do appreciate the suggestions. Trust me, it does help out. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know who to work on. But when you guys give me suggestions, it does help me out a lot. So thank you for that. Again, if you find this video helpful or useful, leave it in the comment section below. If you want to be up to date with any current videos, please do subscribe to my channel, because not only does it help the channel grow, but also means a lot to me as well. And yeah, that's it. This concludes my build guide for Gambit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Until the next one, bye bye.